hustlers, road players, tournament champions. Hear the stories, get their advice, learn about their lives. Our host, Joey Ryan, brings you an inside look at the professional pool player. You're listening to the Pool Player Podcast, brought to you by Pool Scene 365.
Keith McCready, how's it going, man?
It's going good. How about you, Joey?
You know, it's been a long time since I saw you, and as soon as I started doing these interviews, you were on my short list of people I wanted to talk to.
Well, I guess that's good.
It is. Well, thanks for taking the time to make it happen. Why don't we just start from the beginning, Keith? Why don't you take us through how you got started playing pool?
Well, I got started playing pool when I was a kid, but actually, I got started in elementary school. We used to go down to the park and play caroms. And then from caroms, my dad used to take me to the local pool hall named Lindbergh Family Billiards. And then it started from there. And then I used to play my brothers. I started, getting better. And I was always pretty small, so I had to stand on a box in spots to get started. But I always had an eye for the game. And then I started playing my brothers, 25 cents on the 5, 50 cents on the 9. And I guess it sort of started from there. And then my dad kept taking me to the pool hall. And then I started getting better. And by the time I was like 14 and 15 years old, I was sort of right underneath the champions over there in Bellflower, playing with all the greats back then. And that's sort of more or less how it all started.
So, do you think because you started at such a young age, that's how you developed that somewhat sidearm stroke that you have?
I probably got the sidearm stroke from being smaller, and not being able to reach the table and stuff like that. It was always a problem, reaching the table. So I'm sure that's where the sidearm came from.
You talked about by the time you were like 14, you felt like you could kind of beat anyone. What was the moment that you kind of
Well, I couldn't
realized
beat anyone at 14, but I could play.
you
I
could
was
play?
starting to get good.
Okay.
And I played snooker with we used to play a game called pay ball or pink ball. And we had a lot of great players in the game back then. Ronnie Allen, Richie Florence, Wade Crane, Larry Lascotti, One-Eyed Tony. There was Eddie Burton, Cole Dixon. I could go right on down the line. Boston Shorty played a little bit in the game. Siegel tried it. He didn't last long. A couple other guys, just all the great players back then, played, that game. And plus we played partner games once in a while, partner one pocket. And, I was like 15 at the time. And it was just something to really just be able to go down to the pool room in Bellflower and see all these great players. And it was, everybody smoking cigarettes. I mean, it was the epitome of a pool room for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, you probably, I have to believe it would probably go down as the best pool room that I've ever been in, as far as an abundance of players, and everybody back then would gamble. And like today, it's a little bit different than what it was back then.
Yeah, and I want to get into that because you're kind of, I think, known throughout your career more as a gambler / road player
Yeah, I mean,
than
there
a
would be a lot
tournament
of
player.
tournaments. Yeah, there would be a lot of tournaments, that you would sort of play position on, as far as if there wasn't any gambling or not much gambling going to be there, you probably wouldn't go to that tournament. Where if you would go to other tournaments, you'd have people that would be, gamble, and if you didn't do well in the tournaments, was a crapshoot anyways. You could win some money gambling, and playing for money. And back then, there was a lot of ways to make money. Pool wasn't just the only thing. I played golf, I played baseball. There was a lot of things, gin rummy, a lot of things, lagging coins, everything. I sort of did a lot of things to make money besides pool, but pool was just pool I did a little bit better, but I was real good in other activities myself. So pool wasn't just the only thing that I could make money at.
Now something just came together for me in my memory when I used to play against you and see you at events, gin rummy, because you would always say, like gin or gin did, or, something like that. And it
Gin,
just
yeah.
it just brings
It's
back
an
that memory.
expression that it's some Larry Lascotti used to always say that, and I sort of copied him from that, and there was other pool players that would say it too, as far as that
Yeah.
would go. It was an expression, that pool players would use as a just like Cole used. When we were in the game, he'd say something like "dab it, Jones," and that got to be an expression or a thing that people would say in the game, and just people picked up a lot of things from other people back then, and just Denny Searcy was another one that was a great snooker player back then. He played in the games too, and he did well. I think the ones that did the best in the games were me, Larry Lascotti, and Denny.
Yeah.
Everybody else sort of checked up a little short, but
So
everybody.
I'm really curious, Keith, to know, there had to be a time where everybody outside of your circle kind of took notice as to you being a really great player.
Oh,
Like maybe some tournament or event, and
they
people
knew
kind of perked up.
there was a lot of people that knew that I was going to be a good one. There was a lot of people that said, pound for pound, age for age, that I was probably, one of the best younger players that ever played the game. Now they got these other guys, this Joshua Filler and a couple of these other guys that, whatchamacallit, the guy winning all the money now,
Fedor.
Fedor Gorst or whatever his name
Yeah.
is. Yeah. Both them guys, they both shoot straight. And, I like the way they play. There's certain things that, maybe I would maybe do a little different with the cue ball in certain situations. But as far as, doing what they do, I sort of did it myself, so.
Yeah.
And
Well, I'm
I
really
would hope.
curious. Sorry to cut you off, Keith.
Yeah.
I'm really curious though how you feel that yourself and some of your counterparts back in the day would have fared against a Josh Filler or a Fedor Gorst. Do you think that the talent has increased? Do you think that the equipment has made a difference, or
Uh,
do you feel like
well,
you'd have, they'd
the
have a hard time with
rules,
you?
the
Okay.
rules, definitely uh, has turned around some players. It definitely did me. Um, when Larry Hubbard and Terry Bell came into the picture in 81 and 80, 1980 and 81, they were trying to figure out a way to where, weaker players had a chance. And what they did is they took the one foul shot the two shot rollout rule, and they discarded that, and then they brought in these red circle cue balls, red dot cue balls, and it changed. It changed the game completely. My game went down about the 7 ball, and that was in 1981 and 82. So I didn't even really care about playing anymore, to be honest. Because there was a lot of things that was taken away from somebody that would, try to shoot their way out of situations. And, as far as kicking and all that, it's okay to kick, if you roll out for it. There's a little bit more luck involved, and some people get rewarded for luck.
Yeah.
I've never ever been a real lucky player. But
well, there was this one time against me. No, I'm just kidding. Which, by the way,
I mean, I'm sure somewhere along the line, I've gotten lucky myself in certain situations, and but I don't want to win like that, to be realistic about things. I'd rather just shoot down my opponent down, and and make him know that I was present, instead of I mean, if you look out, say 10-10 or something, there's a lot of things happen, on those hill games that people get lucky. And I've lost a lot of them. I've surely lost a lot more than I've ever won, as far as being lucky. And the shark is inevitable too. There's players out there, especially back in our day, there was a lot of players that would use those shark techniques, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. If given the situation, I know if I chirped a little bit in certain areas where I thought it was proper, I'm not going to chirp and deliberately try to talk when somebody's shooting.
Yeah.
But there's certain things that would hit the air, that might be people might see it a little maybe out of line or whatever, but that's all in the heat of the battle. It's got nothing to do with anybody else, in the game but me and him. And a lot of times I played for the crowd anyways. I was sort of that way. I played for crowd and I played for money. And that was more or less it for me. I didn't, and if I was having to get safety in a game or my backers, I would play for my backers.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of things that I could ramble on about, certain areas about certain things that happen in pool games, but it goes on with time. People.
Let me expand on one thing you said, Keith, because we all have, through the course of playing pool in our life, we all have like little stories that pop up, and this is a story I cherish, and I tell a lot of people this story, and you probably don't remember it, okay? But I ended up going to Turning Stone with Mike Davis. It was my first time ever playing in like a big event like
Turning
that.
Stone.
Yeah, and so
I used to anyways. Yeah.
At the time, I was living in Chevy Chase, Maryland. You and I live like 2 miles apart, and we were seeing each other on Thursday nights in Silver Spring,
and
and Wednesday nights in Orange Ball. Yeah, all over the place. And so I go all the way up there. I have this awesome story about how I beat Mike Davis in a practice round on the way up there to pay for half the hotel because he was too cheap to want to stay at the casino. But anyway, we get up there, and I look at the draw, and guess who I draw in the first round?
Mike Davis.
Keith McCready.
Oh, you're doing me.
Remember this. See, I knew you wouldn't remember, and this is why. We remember our losses. We don't remember our victories, okay?
You beat me.
No, I did not beat you.
Oh, okay.
But I was beating you like a lot, like 6-1 or something. And I was playing some of the best pool ever. I felt totally comfortable. And all of a sudden, the crowd started coming around. Like, who is this kid about to beat Keith McCready?
Yeah.
And it's like you got a burst of energy inside. And I mean, And,
Yeah.
at the time you weren't a spring chicken, but you got this burst of energy. You started flying around the table. And I mean, from 6-1 or 6-2, I don't think I got 2 looks at a ball from there, and you won 11-6. I don't know if you remember that.
Maybe my apple martini kicked in or something.
Well, I'll tell you this. Something kicked in, and it was that energy, I think, from the fans, the energy that you had going around the table. Talk to us about that, because I never interpreted that as sharking in any way. It's just what I thought motivated you, when you could interact with the fans and get them into it.
It's like you said, it's energy. When you start raising up on your I don't know, I'm sure a lot of players know it, but sometimes you'll get a little, I guess it's called a little spring in your step, and you'll start getting on your 5 toes up front, and you'll start raising your feet in that way, and you'll start a certain song will come on and get you a little motivated, and there's certain little things that sometimes happens to get you going, and I'm sure that something happened. I mean, I've been down. I've been down 8-0. I was down 10-0 one time playing Jimmy Mattia. And what was funny about that, the tournament before that, I was ahead 10-0, and he come back and beat me 11-10.
Oh.
And then the tournament after that is when it reversed, and I beat him 11-10. I mean, it's the damnedest thing you ever seen or ever heard of. And, and Pretty Boy, he was chirping like a bird. You could just imagine, yeah, color of money, huh, and all that. And, he was doing his thing. He was rambling on, but, as it turned out, I come back and beat him 11-10. But I didn't, I run 3 and 4 racks, a couple times, but, momentum is a lot in pool. It's just like, a golfer, he gets, he birdies 1, birdies 3, makes a good par save on 4, then birdies the 5 next holes. If he misses that birdie or par putt, who knows what happened? He might double bogey the next. It's just, it's the same thing, in pool. Pool is a momentum game. There's some people that can take advantage of momentums. And some people that can play for money, some people that can't. Back then, you had to, weigh all those things up, and certain, if I was playing a real good player, I would want to put him on some tight equipment, to, make, I don't want him, I want them shots to where when you got to make real good, hard shots, that you pay the price if you hit the ball a little bad.
Yeah.
And
well, that's one thing I want to ask you about, Keith, because not really hitting the ball is bad, but when you're in a situation where it's like go or duck, I noticed that when I started hanging around you a little bit in the DC area, that there'd be a lot of situations where I think even the top players, most of them might have played safe, but you were always so aggressive. Were you always that way? It was just part of your nature?
Yeah, well, I mean, the rules of playing this 1 foul ball in hand sort of changed that a little bit. There was a lot of scenarios where people would have jump shots and bring out these jump cues, and and shoot where I wasn't quite as good with these jump cues. I realistically, I thought they should have banned them because I figured it was like a gaff club, like for a golfer. They finally did that, but I think whatever cue you're playing with, you should have to use that cue. Not to take away from the people that makes these jump cues. I have, there's people that make a living with jump cues. So I don't want to say anything bad about the jump cues. I'm just talking about, at an earlier age when I was playing. It would take away from, when you have the cue ball, say maybe 2 inches away from the ball, and the object balls say uh, 6, 7 inches, 8, 9 inches away from that ball, and they just jump over and fire the ball in like it's nothing. I mean,
Mhm.
it's so what good is a perfect safety?
Mhm.
But that's where the rollout should, that they wouldn't even think about shooting that shot if they had to roll out or if they could roll out. There would be a lot of shots that these people wouldn't shoot if there was rollouts. But now people roll out to jumps and all
Yeah.
that. You know
Yeah, and, I think about when we were playing on the Planet Pool Tour, you'd have guys like Mike Davis and Sean Putnam, who those guys were so deadly with that jump cue,
Yeah,
and, I wasn't really great at jumping the balls. I learned how to do it a little bit, but,
yeah.
for me, it was like I kinda felt a little cheated sometimes, like, I'm sitting there
Well,
lining up a
sometimes,
3-rail kick. Yeah.
it's like I said, it sort of takes a little of the air out of your tires, as far as being able to, if you can't jump it and they can, I mean, that's a big advantage.
Yeah.
It takes away from definitely your offense for sure, and stuff like that. I just I just wish they'd go back to the old fashioned rules myself, but you would see, people, I'd love to see Joshua Filler roll out and Fedor Gorst roll out and Pagalian roll out and all these guys roll out, you know.
That'd be neat to have, like, 1 tournament a year that was like, the old rules,
Yeah.
just to
Well,
kinda see how they would do
Grady
under the old
Matthews
rules.
tried to have a couple of them like that, I
Yeah.
believe, and stuff like that. But I just, I mean, that's the way I grew up, and playing the other rules, and like I said, like in '81 and '82, my game went probably down the 7 ball, from what it
Really.
was. And then every once in a while, it sounds weird, but I would catch a flashback, but and then play real good for a lot of hours, but
I was there for a few of those flashbacks. I saw
right,
'em. There were times it looked like nobody in the world could touch you. I mean,
right. Well,
your
I mean,
ball pocketing and yeah.
you could take a real good player and roll out with them, and there's certain shots that that you could attempt to make. A lot of times when you shoot a shot, you're trying to play a safety with that shot too. It's just not rolling out just to make the ball.
Yeah, there's
But
kind of a knack to that, right? Where,
right,
I
there's
do it accidentally sometimes where I happen to miss a ball the same type of way a few times and it just happens to get into a safe
you, your
position. It's
ball
not
your
really.
ball your
Yeah,
ball speeds are, if you're pushing out, say, for a cut shot that that he's probably not going to take it,
right.
and sometimes you'll underdo it, or in the cue ball will come 2 rails or whatever. But a lot of times you play to overcut them, and and if there are a lot, you would see if it's a real tough shot and you can't make it, then you give it up. I mean, it's but a lot of times, rolling out isn't to make the ball. It's like sort of a chess game from that point.
Yeah, you're
You
moving
either put the
pawns.
guy,
Yeah,
you put the guy in a situation to where if he goes for that shot and he doesn't make it, well, you're going to get out,
yeah,
and vice versa. If he gives you if he elects to give you the shot, you want to be able to try to shoot the shot in a way to where sometimes you're forced to just have to go for it, and you bite the bullet if you miss it, especially like if you got a long roll shot and it's the length of the table or whatever, and a lot of times you'll roll out for that shot and you'll bank it across corner, but you'll play it to the short rail and then have the ball come back in the middle
yeah.
where it's a free shot. If you make it, you're going to probably win the game because cue ball's going this way and coming back down, and usually the time when you do give up a shot is if you hit the ball bad, double kiss it or whatever, and the shot isn't executed the way it's supposed to. But
Right.
at least you had the chance to do that,
Yeah.
and if you're going to beat yourself, I'd much rather be able to beat myself like that than having to put myself in a position to where I can't. I mean, you watch this Jason Shaw and all these guys, they jump these balls like it's nothing.
Yeah.
And
When they're playing good, it's like they're never going to
it's
miss.
like it's not fair.
Really. Well, as soon as I started this podcast, I had so many requests for you. And like I said, you were on my short list. And I log on and we're recording this today on St. Patrick's Day. And I come on with the green shirt. My daughter threw these beads around. And I'm like, I'm sure with a name like Keith McCready, he's going to be here with a green shirt. Oh, okay. We'll let you slide on that one.
Yeah.
But one of the things that most people have said when I was talking about getting you on the show is, wow, you got to have him tell some kind of story, some kind of story from the road or something that happened out there that maybe not a lot of people heard about. And I know it's putting you on the spot, but is there anything that you could share that happened out there to you that you might think people would be interested in hearing?
Well, the last time that Jenny wants me to say Minnesota Fats, I'll go into that story. We were up there in St. Louis, and I was with a friend of mine, Charlie the Ape, and Minnesota Fats was there. Minnesota Fats was, very sick, but he was coming around a couple events, so anyways, Ronnie Allen, was real good friends with Fats, and he got Fats to play me, and this was going to be Fats's last time that he ever played anybody. And so we started out playing 500 a game, and I was giving him we were playing one game. We were playing a game of banks and a game of one pocket. I was giving him 8 to 7 playing one pocket and 10 to 8 playing banks, and I ended up beating him out of 8,000, and that was the last time we played. And he gave me 4 $500 bills and signed them, and my friend ended up swallowing them. And but that was the last time Minnesota Fats played.
Huh.
And then after that, he went to Nashville, and he died not too long after that. Because I was in Nashville myself. I actually went and saw him in the hospital, and he was in bad shape, there. But that was a fun story. You'd had to been there to see it.
Until the part where he died, that was a real fun story.
Yeah, well, nobody, but he was in real bad shape. I mean,
I was going to say, there's a side to you, Keith. Like you said, you visited him in the hospital. I think there's a side to you that some people don't know about. And I'll share this story that I don't know if you remember this story because it just felt so natural to you, I think. I had my wife and we had took custody of a little girl, and we were basically fostering her. And I went to a pool tournament in Rockville at the Old Champions, and you were there. I want to say it was a chip tournament where we were playing like ring games, and I did pretty well that day. And because I did, I was there for a while, and you took her, this little girl that I was taking care of, and you, for like 2 hours, played pool with her and taught her how to hit balls and taught her how to shoot.
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking, man, like, I don't know that I was expecting that. So, I mean, was that something that you would do frequently, where you'd work with some of the younger generation? Did that appeal to you?
When I see the kids, there's a special place in my heart for the kids, especially if they're trying to play a tough game like pool. And and when kids look up to you and they sort of like you, and for who you are, and I sort of go out of my way to try to help them. Stroking the balls, getting down the balls, and playing with them, cutting up with their parents, and just I've sort of always been that type of guy. I like kids and stuff. I've never had any kids myself that I know of. Been a couple knockups, but
Well,
no kids.
I don't know if you know how long it took me to get her to straighten her arm back up because she kept wanting to shoot like this, Keith. It took a long time. I'm just kidding.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I think the sidearm is in. I mean, there's
really. And, so we both know Mike Davis pretty well, and he's got that weird stroke where he kind of lifts up and down. And
he's a big kid.
For the longest time, Mike thought that he was onto something and that it was something that more people should do. And do you feel the same way about the sidearm technique?
Well, people that are tall, like Mike and other players that are tall, they always sort of got that, straight up and down type of stroke. Tommy Spencer used to have, a stroke like that. Myself, my chin and my eyes from the object ball to the shaft was always better when it was down. Not up and down like that, or just being down, like this.
Yeah.
And it comes from, just probably being smaller. People that are bigger and taller, that's that's just the way it is. Like Archer, same thing.
Yeah.
Long legs. Very seldom you'll see a long-legged guy bend down, and crouch down and get into that King Kong or me and Jose's sort of got that sidearm a little bit. King Kong for sure. And as far as I don't know a whole bunch of other people that sort of have that sidearm. Ralph Greenleaf had a sidearm stroke like mine.
Yeah.
From when I was a kid, I asked, there was, like Cowboy Jimmy Moore and, and Lassiter and, they said that Greenleaf had a stroke like mine,
Oh, really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Huh.
But
so
a lot of them don't have the sidearm.
Yeah. So switching gears a little bit, I have to talk to you a little bit about The Color of Money. I know you've done other interviews recently where you've talked about it, but I didn't know who you were when the movie came out. But being a young guy and having a pool table in my basement and my dad, who was a pretty good player, good league player and stuff, I remember that movie kind of inspiring me to go down the basement and hit balls, and try to become a good pool player. And your character from that movie, nobody could have convinced me that you were. I mean, I could tell by the way you hit balls, you knew you were a pool player, but like somebody could have said, yeah, this is a world-class actor, and I would have believed it.
Right.
Just the way you played the part was so amazing.
It was a little nervous. I was nervous.
Were you?
Yeah, I mean, it might not see it on the screen, but you're always, once I got the hang of it and used to it, and it was different. But my first take, you're always nervous. But the one good thing that about that is that they can shoot it again, and that's one thing that the actors know. But if you're an actor, and a lot of actors want to do their own scenes and do their own parts, and that's why like with Tom Cruise, Tom Cruise we shot on one scene, it was 46 takes, and And finally, Mike Siegel came in and made that jump shot that you saw in the movie. And Cruise tried it and tried it and tried it, and we tried it and tried it and tried it. And, he just couldn't do it. And, Cruise is very adamant about, I'm sure you probably noticed from all his other movies that he likes to do his own scenes and own stunts, so that's more or less where that came from. But, a take, when you don't have any blow up scenes or whatever, it usually takes 30 to 45 minutes to set back up. That's how long it took, that scene to set back up each time. And after 46 takes, Siegel came in and made it the first try and it was over, and everybody, on the set, was relieved, because dang, it was, long time shooting that one scene.
Were all of your lines scripted, or did you go off script at all?
When I called him a lucky little prick, that was me ad-libbing.
I like it.
There was a couple other scenes that we shot that didn't get edited, and I was ad-libbing. But Martin sort of, let me have the reins as far as, trying to make the scene a little bit more juicier, if it was appropriate, and stuff like that. So
it was so good, Keith, because as part of what you want from a movie is you want like the villain, you want the audience not to like the villain, right? So I wanted Tom Cruise to beat you so bad, and it's like
right.
That's because of what you did. The way you acted that part, I was like, man, I hope he beats this guy, because we've all played somebody who's been a little bit cocky and kind of like Grady Seasons was, and been the top dog and knew they were the top dog, and you just had that air about you in that movie. And it was like, oh, beat him, Tom, get him, Vince. Yeah. Who, if you had to pick today, let's say somebody came to you and said, we're going to shoot another Color of Money, like a sequel, and we're going to do it with today's generation of players, and we want you to help with casting, who would you pick for today's Grady Seasons?
Who would I pick for today's Grady Seasons? I might pick Alex, because he's a little flamboyant, he's got a little spunk, and he can cater to the crowd and stuff like that. I'd have to think about it, sort of just off the hand, but he would be one of my picks for sure. I mean, if you sat down and had everybody around, I'm sure that I could put it together and get all the right players for the right parts, but
I think Filler has a little bit of that, where he kind of walks around like nobody's going to beat me type of attitude, I could see him doing that. Maybe if he were
he can back it up too. The one good thing about Filler I like about his game, and I said this on the other thing, thing with Gloria, is that when he strokes through the cue ball, he compresses the cue ball. And what I mean by that is, like, when I used to play with the big cue ball, I'd compress all my shots. And that's what he reminds me of on a 4.5x9, is the way I played the big cue ball when I was younger. And it's sort of funny, but it's just, I like his game. I like his game out of, the people out there today right now, I think,
Yeah. Well, Keith, I follow Jenny on Facebook. She's always like following the pool action and snooker. She loves snooker.
She knows more all about things than I do.
Yeah, I know she probably keeps you up to date with things and has you watch stuff like, hey, there's a big match on today and stuff. But tell everybody what you're doing when you're, just hanging out now. What kind of stuff you into?
Well, right now I'm sort of a dog watcher. And, I've got to, make sure she gets the work done. It's, the dog, he's spoiled, and so I've got to make sure that she's able to get the jobs out. And I do my little online stuff. I have a play a little poker and bet a little game here or there when I can.
I bet you do pretty well.
And and I've got my new line of cues that we're coming out with, me and Gary Langley.
Yeah.
Langley Custom Cues. We had 8 of them, and they all sold out immediately.
Really?
Yeah, and we're on the verge of making some more, and hopefully we'll get some done by April, May, or somewhere in that. We'll have, I think, 11 more out.
Oh, wow.
With a little different design than this last one. But everybody that has gotten these cues so far, they all really like the cues a lot. They're made to my specs. They're not specs that you buy a cue stick and there might not be no guts in it, and
Yeah.
you could be paying a lot of money for a cue stick, and if it doesn't have that forward balance and that real good hit on it, it's not worth it, so Gary came over here, and I showed him these. I had a couple cues here that I still have, and I showed him what I like in a cue stick and how I think cues should be balanced, and I like skinny butts. Some people that are bigger have bigger hands, fatter hands, probably like a little fatter butt. But all these cues were sort of made skinnier, skinnier butts, forward balance, and they're all 19 and a half to 20 and a half to 21 and a half. So,
well, I tell you, it sounds like the focus is on a good hitting cue, but
definitely.
they're really nice looking too. I was talking with Gary even
I
before you
can't
and I got
I
together.
can't let the cue go out unless it's got my specs on it. I just can't do it. I can't. As far as just not having that forward weight. I think forward weight in every cue stick, and every player should have forward balance in their cue sticks. And I'm pretty sure if you ask a lot of players, a lot of them do.
Yeah.
Probably do have that. Now snooker might be a little different. Animal, because those cues that they play with, I could never make a ball with those. But,
Well, Keith, I don't know if you noticed the logo in the top corner, but recently I got affiliated with a company called 1PKT,
what's
and
it called?
1PKT. It's really One Pocket is the
Was that the
logo
one
really.
Scott Frost was involved with?
Yeah, and so but part of it for me is a passion for the game, because when
Right.
I knew when you and I were back living close to each other, I didn't play the game much at all. I was strictly a rotation player, but I really got to like the game and appreciate the game. In fact, my last interview on Pool Player Podcast was with Tom Worth.
Oh yeah,
And
I like Tom.
yeah, and so now we're selling his book on that site and stuff, but
Okay.
I'm gonna send you a few shirts, one for you and Jenny, so you guys, just feel free to wear them if you like. I'll get you shirt size and stuff, and as a thank you
All
for
right.
being on.
All right.
But I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what it means to be a part of the One Pocket Hall of Fame.
What it means to at least somebody recognized me. I mean, it's really sad that I'm not in the other Hall of Fame. And I believe it's politics and certain people behind the scenes. But that's for another day. But I'm really happy that I got recognized for this, and I have that plaque that was given to me, which means a lot to me. And the people that came out to show their love and their gratitude toward me is something that I'll keep with me for a long time. you know.
How did you get into the game of one pocket? Was it just because of the gambling side and you knew that was a way that you can make a lot of money?
Another gambling game. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't play it quite as good as some of the top one pocket players, but I could, as time goes on, you learn more, and one pocket's you can always seems like you can always learn another shot playing one pocket.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. It's every rack is different. There's tons of different ways to play different shots.
yeah,
Every
I'm
once in a
not
while
I'm not
yeah.
high tech on a lot of the things that I know about kicking balls out of the hole and twisting balls in, stuff like that. But uh, as far as playing those real good movers, I'd rather not play them.
They
I'd
keep
rather
you in.
play a guy that sort of wings it like me.
Yeah.
Then I can probably hang with them. But
What's
you
the
get
biggest one pocket set you ever played?
the biggest one pocket set I played. Well, that when we played it, me and Harry Plattis played Rosie. We ended up winning 420,000 when it was all said and done. We started off playing. I think it was like 7,000 a man, and we ended up beating him out of 420,000. Playing
Wow.
one, it was one pocket, and I was giving him I gave him a crazy 9-ball game, the 3, 5, 7, 9 in the break, and I had him 5-0. We played raced 11 for 100,000. This is after he was stuck though, and then
Where
he quit that.
where was this, Keith?
It
Where
was in
was this?
Vegas. It was in
Vegas?
Vegas. Yeah, and
Jeez.
but that's the biggest score I ever made. But uh, I played the most I ever played for was 25,000 a game. So, but
So
besides that, before that, I mean, there was other games that we bet high and stuff, but not like that.
yeah. So with today, it seems like that there might be somewhat of a resurgence in pool in this country. It's kind of fragmented. You have different people doing different things. You have Matchroom, you have CSI, a bunch of independent events. Like, what do you think about the state of pool now in the United States compared to your generation? Do you think we're actually on an upswing now, or do you think there's still a lot of work to be done?
Well, with all these challenge matches going on and uh, happening and Matchroom, I have to say, it's on the upswing.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of good things happening in pool. I wish I could go back in time because I'd definitely be in the mix with a lot of these guys, especially for these numbers that they're playing for. I would love to be involved in that. Uh, I wish it was you know, back in time that we had things like that, and it should have been like that anyways, where it was actually, legal in certain states that people could play one another for money,
Yeah.
or you had, like Kentucky, Tennessee, and
Game of skill.
yeah, where they, would allow people to play one-on-one matches for money.
Yeah.
Uh, but back then, I mean, we did it anyways, but they, they didn't. We didn't have a lot of these challenge matches that they're having now, and uh, I don't. They're fun. I don't watch a lot of them, and if Jenny gets me to, tells me about a game, something like that, I'll, maybe chime in on it, or if I've got a couple friends of mine that play in these local tournaments or whatever, and they stream them, I'll go on there and watch them, for a little while, but
Yeah.
besides that, I mean, myself, when you're a player, you want to, you sort of want to play,
I gotcha. Yep.
I'm not much of a watcher,
Yep.
uh,
I
or
know
a
exactly
sport.
how you feel. I know exactly how you feel. Yeah,
I'd much rather be in the combat of things and,
that's great.
and, be in the mix some way, but that's another story.
One thing I'm noticing is that there's a lot of really young players now kind of taking this path of getting into pool. In some ways, in a more maybe professional way, they're getting sponsorship earlier. They're playing in
Yeah,
a
I
lot of
mean,
tournaments.
there's a lot of them that are, these people are coming out of the woodwork to promote their products,
Yeah,
and which is nice. I don't know how much they give these players to go to these events. I know it's expensive,
yeah,
so I don't know what kind of deals they all have, but I know that the players need a little bit of money to be able to go. You
yeah,
know, to, but it seems like there's a lot of them are trying to you know pick a couple of them little stars,
yeah.
and like that little uh, Easton girl,
Savannah
uh,
Easton, yeah. That's
Savannah.
who I was thinking of when we started
I
this
mean,
part of the
she's a prime
conversation.
example. I mean, I follow her. I mean, I'm a fan of hers. I follow her. What she does, what she's talking about, and she comes from a good family, and she loves the game, and that's what it takes. I mean, she's gonna go through her bumps. She's gonna have hard losses, and and as far as being able to learn from those hard losses, it's a good stepping stone for her to be able to have all these sponsors wanting to get with her, and you got to perform too,
Yeah,
because pool can be a mean game sometimes, and but she's so well liked. I mean, they'll like her even if she loses. It's
yeah. She's
needs to
good
say
for the
that.
sport.
Yeah, I
And
mean she.
that's kind of the question. That's where I was going with this is from a guy who's been in the trenches really his whole life and, didn't have those opportunities maybe for sponsorship and stuff like that. What advice would you give this younger generation now, maybe as a pool player or as, marketing their own brand or whatever it is? Do you have any advice that you could give like this next generation of pool players coming up? Because I know they listen to the show and they probably want to hear it from you.
Well, the advice that I would give is it's nice to have a sponsor, but they have to understand that they're not only working for them, that they're working for themselves too. I just wish there was a little bit more, like if like say you go to the younger generation and you go to like golf and tennis, and you have these Adidas, Nike, and clothing lines, and they all give them a certain amount of money. Pool's not quite like that quite yet. It's and it's a shame. It'd be nice to be able to see with all these billions of dollars that Biden's giving out. It'd be really nice for him to maybe shuck one of those in the pool business.
There went
But,
half my audience, Keith. All the Democrats are gone.
oh no, but yeah, but that's what pool needs is just a couple of two or three guys, uh, uh, one Musk or uh, a couple of the other richer people, that would put up some money for a tour. You
Kind of
know,
like what Trudeau tried to do, right, with the
yeah.
IPT.
People are going to say a lot of, they can say what they want to about Kevin Trudeau. I like Kevin Trudeau. He had a vision. The vision was good. Everybody got paid, you know.
Yeah.
Uh,
Nothing wrong with getting paid. I mean, even the people now that are promoting pool tours and stuff, I mean, they're working at it. There's nothing
yeah,
wrong with getting paid. It's just the players got to get paid too.
right. But as far as like the younger people coming up with the sponsors and that it's I never had it. I don't think any of the pool players, you go back in the 70s and the 80s had the sponsors. Nowadays the people are coming out with a lot of people from Europe had sponsors, because it seemed like they were, sort of like behind pool and golf and, a little bit more than the United States, and which is a little bit of a shame, but there was,
Yeah.
you go to those Moscone Cups and it
Well,
seems like
Matchroom's got a number of events now. They have the Premier League pool.
right now,
They
yeah,
have
well,
the
Jenny's into the Matchroom stuff.
yeah.
I don't really know a whole bunch about the Matchroom, but
They're
they're
doing
doing a
more.
lot of snooker events, right?
Yeah, they've been doing
Right?
snooker, and now they're
Okay.
doing more pool. They've gotten their pool up from a few events a year now to 7 or 8. I mean, they're doing a lot of good stuff. I've had Emily on the podcast, and we're gonna have her on our live show, Dogging It. And people are critical of them in certain areas, but I'm telling you, they're doing a lot for the game. They're doing a lot for the sport,
What
which is great.
Matchroom?
Yeah,
Yeah. I wish them the best. It's like I said, I wish I wish there would have been a Matchroom, younger when I was in my heydays, but
yeah,
there wasn't. We had Richie Florence, that put on a $25,000 tournament every other year, and till that went south. I think that was like a 3 or 4 year deal, and then they had these other tournaments that, where the winners only got like 5, 6, 7,000,
yeah,
and and they didn't have calcuttas. When you went to like Kentucky or stuff like that for like Rob's Roost in North Carolina and Kentucky at in Richmond, Kentucky, they had calcuttas and stuff too, and which generated a lot of money.
yeah,
And those are the ones, that we sort of like, you know, uh, programmed ourselves around where you could get the action. And they have Calcutta cut up and Calcuttas, and people would come out of the woodwork. I mean, there was only standing room or the standing room only at the Maverick Club over there in Richmond, Kentucky.
yeah.
One of the best tournaments that I enjoyed playing in.
Yeah, you
Uh,
snapped a big one off there too, didn't you?
yeah,
I think you
and come
beat.
second in the other one 11-10. I beat Earl 11-10, and the next year I lost at 11-10.
Hmm.
I mean,
Was
it
it?
was a
Did you
thriller.
compete?
I mean,
Did you compete a lot against Earl? I mean, I know I
we
can
had our
kind of.
battles. We
Yeah,
had
I
our
can kind of
battles
see you two being,
in
you know,
tournaments. Me and
getting at it a
Efren
little
had our
bit.
battles too.
Yeah,
I played Efren when he was in his prime.
yeah.
And you learned a lot, and plus played a lot of the Filipinos too that never missed a ball that you don't even know of. Uh,
It's
I
sad, isn't
mean,
it?
yeah,
Well,
they
Keith,
snuck in a lot of them on me.
Keith, I really appreciate you. We've been going an hour now, and I really
Okay.
appreciate you taking the time. I want to give you a chance just to share something that's. I see you got to take care of the dog in a minute. I hear him back
Oh
there,
yeah.
but give you a chance to really just share anything that's on your mind, anything you want to tell your fans or people out there, and we'll kind of close it out with that.
As far as the toughest player, I'm just gonna, that's always been a question for me. I'm going to go down with Earl's probably been the toughest player to play that I've ever played against in tournaments and stuff like that. You had your Seagulls and stuff. Seagull was always hard to beat too, but it just seems like to me that Earl was the toughest to beat. And Buddy Hall, as far as respect and as being a player, he goes on the top of my list. Earl's toughest to beat in pool tournaments. Back in the 80s, I mean, if you didn't hit Earl with a 5, 6, or 7, you weren't winning. So it was just one of those things. And I mean, he won 5 U.S. Opens in the 80s. So, I mean, that sort of tells you something there. And, you know, like the people nowadays, me and Earl had a couple barn burners where I swear anybody that was there knows how exciting those matches were. And I probably made the greatest shot that I ever made against playing pool that I've ever made. And I scratched on it, and it was ungodly, hill, and I lose it. That's the shot I made to lose it 11-10.
What kind of shot was that? What was it? Tell us about it.
Well, the table was like, let's see if I could.
No, don't try.
Okay. The table was here, Jenny, say just like it's long
frame.
distance. Okay?
Okay.
I was thumb railed on the back rail. The 7 or it was the 6. I was shooting the 6. The 6 was a little bit off the side rail on the right hand side. I'd say about maybe 2 inches, maybe 2.5 inches. And the only way that I could get back down on the 7 is, and the tables were wringing wet. I mean, so, and I couldn't bank it. You know, it was just that weird of an angle to where I couldn't bank it. So I had to juice it. And then when I make the 6, the cue ball's got to like stop in mid motion, get the spin, and then juice up around the 2 corners. And I make the shot. I hit the ball dead center wicket. And I come 2 rails, and the ball was all the way back down on the there's not even a way to even get back down there like that. And the ball just kept rolling and rolling and rolling and just trickled in the pocket. Hill. That's how I lose it. I mean,
you hit it too good, Keith. You hit it too good.
Unbelievable shot. Earl will tell you about it, you know.
Jeez.
But I mean, I don't know. There's been a lot of good, you know, times, you know. It's hard to put them all in one little thing. Me and Mizerak played a couple barn burners over there in North Carolina one time. Races to 7, 2 out of 3. Each match went 7, or hill, all 3 matches, and I ended up winning 2 out of 3. I mean, it's been a lot of exciting matches, you know. That I made a real good shot playing Danny Medina one time, hill, that you just don't make, you know.
You know, Keith, so I kind of gave you a chance to like lead us out, but you want to keep talking, which is awesome.
Oh yeah,
So,
okay.
No, it's okay. It made me think of something that I want to ask you. If you had to do it all over again, would you have chosen pool? Do you have any regrets?
Would I have chosen pool? If I could have been a professional golfer or a professional baseball player, I probably would have went that way. But at that time, I played better pool, so I wouldn't change anything, you know. And I wouldn't take away anything that I've ever done in my life either.
Right.
Would not do it, you know. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. There's been things that maybe I could have done a little better, but you know what? I'm not going to, you know, for anything that I've ever done, I'm not going to be mad, be sad, or whatever. You know, I've had a good ride so far, and I'm lucky I met Jenny. I probably don't know if I would be here right now if I didn't meet her. And so I'm real lucky in that department. she probably saved my life, and and uh, and and now that I don't drink and I don't smoke, it's been 9 years for smoking, and it's been 17 to 18 years with no drinking and drugs. I
That's
mean,
great.
I slipped a couple times on a couple beers here or there, but
That's
besides
great,
that,
Keith.
besides that, you know, no drugs though. Not I haven't done a drug in say 18 years, so that's pretty good.
Yeah. Well, and I see the pictures of you walking the dogs through Rock Creek
Yeah,
Park.
and I would
It's
love to
just
be
good
able to
life
walk
now.
more.
I'm very happy for you, and I'm also very happy that our paths crossed, 18 years ago or whenever they did, and
Right.
that you were able to come on here today and share this little bit of history with people, and this will live
Okay.
on YouTube for however long, and
Okay.
so feel free to share it with people, and I think you're going to be pretty happy with it. I'm very
Okay.
happy with it, and I really appreciate your time, and thanks to Jenny for putting this together. I think it was great. Thank you,
Okay.
Keith.
All right, Joey. Well,
Okay.
thanks for having me, and I'll talk with you later.
Okay. Thank you.